Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, the way we approach the question, the wider question of immigration is really based on what narrative that we use. This committee, this hearing is set up on a narrative that really looks at illegal immigrants who have committed heinous crimes, homicides. And so someone using that narrative will have a very negative view towards immigration policy because you're looking at that consequence. There's another narrative, though. I had an opportunity as part of this National Security Subcommittee to visit with the former chairman, Mr. Issa. We went to Kandahar, Afghanistan. And I was honored. I have to say I was honored to be asked to participate in an immigration, a citizenship ceremony. So here I am at this godforsaken forward operating base when about 100 young Marines, men and women, surprised at the number of young women, took the oath of citizenship for this country. Every one of them a non-citizen, in American uniforms, fighting for this country in a very difficult war zone. From 19, and out of those about 100 Marines, a few soldiers as well, 19 different countries, from Guatemala to Somalia to Ethiopia to Mexico. And I was standing there, and we had a chance to spend the afternoon with these young soldiers and Marines, and I could not help but think about the quote that John F. Kennedy made famous. He said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." And I'm thinking, these young soldiers, these young Marines, standing in the place of American citizens in a tough war zone, chasing the Taliban up and down that province, and they're not even citizens. Trying to be American citizens for all the right reasons. If you take that narrative and you see the good that is possible by adopting an immigration policy that actually values that desire to be part of this country for all the right reasons, you take a whole different, a much more hopeful view of immigration policy and what we could accomplish if we got it right. So, Ms. Saldana, Director Saldana, I want to ask you about some of your comments earlier. You're talking about, look, we all know that if we got sequestration, or even the proposed budget is $500 million below sequestration, which really cuts into your ability to do your job. And I've seen numbers that say that 85% of ISIS removals from the United States in 2014 were convicted criminals. So it sounds like you're meeting your priorities. I'm just wondering what impact is this going to have in going after your priority? You said it was national security. So that's going after terrorists and those involved in espionage, criminal activity. So how will this, tell me a little bit about how this might affect your ability to do your job and to try to make sense of this somewhat dysfunctional immigration policy that we have right now?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because we have had a number of things working against us and increasing our expenses. For example, obviously the influx of families, women and children, require even greater services than others. Those beds are much more expensive than a regular adult bed that you would have. We have operations that we conduct because we cannot get people from the state system immediately, with some jurisdictions not cooperating with us. We have operations we have to conduct where we pull people off of their regular duties and go out and try to find dangerous criminals. That not only exposes the officers to safety issues, but it also can be a very detrimental situation with respect to the family who is present at the time that the officers show up. So to us, even the disruption that occurred back in March, before March, with respect to not having even any kind of guarantee with respect to our 15 budget, it wreaked tremendous havoc, never mind the 20,000 employees who would not be receiving a paycheck if sequestration continues in this manner.
Right. Now, do you do any work with the victims on the victim side?
Absolutely.
In these cases, and is that piece going to be affected as well?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because we often forget it's not just ERO, but it's HSI, our Homeland Security Investigation side of the house, that is affected by these budget constrictions. And they help us with respect to these smuggling networks, as I mentioned in my opening statement. Not only do we have to take care of the families once they get across, but we ought to do the best we can to dismantle those smuggling organizations that put them at peril and bring them over into this country. So yes, sir, that's a more complete picture.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.